Good afternoon and a warm welcome. I would like to greet cordially Member of the European Parliament, Letizia Moratti, our keynote speaker today. Thank you for coming and being with us. I would also like to welcome particularly the representatives of the European Commission, of the Member States, of the regional authorities, colleagues from European and national associations and industry, representatives from civil society and NGOs, academic and the research community. Dear guests, a cordial welcome to today's event that is jointly organized by ESWET, the European suppliers of waste-to-energy technology, and CEWEP, the European Association of the Operators of Waste-to-Energy Plants. We are surprised, but very, very happy to have so many people here today. We have 250 people registered from 27 countries. And I hope you will have a lively debate among so many participants. As the EU moves forward with its climate and circular economy ambitions, our sector will make its contribution. Today, we have gathered here to discuss what is the most effective tool to decarbonize the waste sector. And we will discuss the potential inclusion of waste-to-energy into the EU emissions trading scheme. What does it mean for decarbonization, sustainable waste management, and energy security? We have two panels. Today, panel 1 will discuss if the EU ETS fits for waste-to-energy. That will be moderated by Karolina, Deputy Secretary General of ESWET. And the second panel will look beyond ETS and discuss what the policy debate must include. And this panel will be moderated by Fabio Poretti, CEWEP's Scientific and Technical Officer, our man for climate issues. And dear guests, we are interested in your opinion as well. So we have prepared a few Slido questions. Please be prepared. We want to have your opinion. Now, before I will introduce our keynote speaker of today, Ms. Moratti, I will provide you with a few facts about waste-to-energy in Europe. The waste-to-energy sector is committed to decarbonization, but it must be aligned with high environmental standards, with the circular economy goals and energy security aims. How do we make it happen? The goal of today's event is to have a constructive dialogue among the different stakeholders about how to efficiently decarbonize the waste sector. There is no easy, it's good to introduce waste-to-energy in the ETS, or it's bad, black or white. It's not so easy to answer, and also among CEWEP members, we have different opinions. Some members think it's a good idea to cover waste-to-energy in the EU ETS. Some are more skeptical, fearing some negative consequences. But we are here to discuss, not to come out and say the yes or no has won, but to find the best way how to make it work. If we make it work, then we have to make it work properly. Before starting the discussion, I would like to go a little bit back in history, why we are here today. When the European Commission proposed their Fit for 55 package back in 2021, they did not propose to include waste incineration into the EU ETS. Their proposal was to remain excluded, so exclusion of the incineration of municipal and hazardous waste. But the European Parliament wanted to have municipal waste incineration in, as from 2026 already. And they asked the Commission to make a report about the implementation of municipal waste incineration, but also the European Parliament was aware that this might have negative impact on the whole waste structure. For instance, diverting the waste to landfill or to experts in third countries if only waste to energy would become more expensive due to being covered under the EU ETS. And so they asked the Commission to make a report, also considering the fact that in some countries there is an undercapacity of waste to energy, and how the consequences of landfill, the possible diversion of waste to landfills and export to third countries could realize. And then, of course, the Council comes in, and the Council said, okay, if you include municipal waste incineration, the Commission should make a legally binding impact assessment. They said by end of 2026, they wanted to give the Commission a bit more time than it has now. And it should check if as from 2031, municipal waste incineration should be covered by the ETS. Taking into account relevant criteria such as the effects on the internal market, on potential distortion of competition, and particularly environmental integrity, which is very important, and the objectives of the Waste Framework Directive. They also mentioned the robustness and accuracy of the monitoring and calculation of emissions, which is very important, because the current monitoring rules are made for regular fuels, and they don't really fit 100% for the more heterogeneous composition of waste. So the takeaway from the Council text is a legally binding assessment, which is needed before municipal waste incineration would be covered under the EU ETS, a more extended timeline, and look at the monitoring issues. So what we get in the end is more or less what we all know today. The Commission has to come up by the end of July 2026 this year with an impact assessment to show the feasibility to include municipal waste incineration into the ETS from 2028. And the Commission should also assess the potential need for a possibility for a member state to opt waste to energy out until end of 2023. They asked for monitoring, reporting, and verifying emissions from municipal waste incineration installations to be, well, that is already the fact. As from January 2024, waste-to-energy operators have to measure their CO2 emissions. And a holistic impact assessment is necessary to evaluate also the possibility, look into the other waste management options, such as landfilling. And before we come to the discussions, I wanted to provide a few facts about waste to energy in Europe to you. These are facts and figures which we update every year. So you see the dark blue, that's the number of waste to energy plants, and the orange is the number of residual waste treated annually. So let's, for instance, go to Belgium. There are 17 waste to energy plants here, treating almost 3.5 million tons annually. In total of Europe, there are about 500 waste-to-energy plants treating residual waste in Europe, and the amount is about 100 million tons. As you can see from this map, Europe is very diverse. You have quite some waste-to-energy plants in the Nordic and central part of Europe. When you go far right, sorry, the pointer doesn't work, so I have to show it with a finger. The more you go on the right side, there is less waste-to-energy. There are some member states which have no waste-to-energy capacity at all, for instance, Greece or Bulgaria. Unfortunately, these member states still heavily rely on landfilling. And we have a figure which we also update every year. It's based on Eurostat figures. And the red bar shows the landfill rate for municipal waste, the orange rate shows waste to energy, and the green bar shows recycling. And you can see on the right bar where there's still a lot of landfilling in these member states. Also, recycling rates are very low, and waste-to-energy rates as well. Whereas on the left side, you see low landfill rates, you see relatively high recycling rates and waste-to-energy rates, because you need waste-to-energy to treat, to help also recycling and to treat the residues from recycling and sorting facilities. Yes, Europe is diverse, as you can see here, and 8 member states still landfill half of their municipal waste, which is a lot. It's another universe than when you look at the left side, where there's practically no landfilling. So it's difficult to say one size fits all. We have to somehow get these universes together and still fulfilling climate and environmental targets. And from the member states, 3 member states have already waste-to-energy under the EU ETS. That's Sweden, Denmark, and partly Lithuania. And some member states who don't have waste-to-energy under the EU ETS, they have, for instance, introduced incineration or CO2 taxes. Denmark has done both, taxes, high taxes, and EU ETS. But there are about 9 member states who have introduced incineration or CO2 taxes, and that's the orange colors. So these countries are Austria, Belgium, France, Ireland, Italy, Norway, Portugal, Spain, and Switzerland. And 3 member states have something like the EU ETS, but on a national level. So it's a national scheme, and that's the Netherlands, Germany, and UK still under proposal. So that's not EU ETS or nothing. It is EU ETS and or, as I said, many member states have already introduced taxes. And then the question is also, if the EU ETS would come for all waste-to-energy plants, what will happen with the taxes then? Will there be a double burden? That would be maybe too much. But have you ever seen a member state taking away a tax that they have already introduced? That happens very rarely. It happens, but very, very rarely. So this should be taken into account. And of course, within CEWEP, we did our own little impact assessment. Based on EU 27, we treated 81 million tons of residual waste a year, and this emitted about 42 million tons of fossil CO2 emissions. Assuming that the ETS price is 100 euros, of course you can assume something else, but you have to take something. For this calculation, we took 100 euros per ton. Then the total costs per year would be 4.2 billion euros. Of course, it doesn't come as breaking news that EU ETS is costly. But we have, of course, to decide widely how to spread the costs and to discuss what is the benefit of it and what might be at risk. And the 2 organizations, CEWEP and ESWET, we jointly launched a policy brief. You could find it as a handout at the entrance, but you can also find it on the websites of the 2 associations. And the main points we tackled there are probably also the points that will be tackled today. But first of all, don't forget and have always in mind that waste-to-energy is a public service. It fulfills a hygienic task to treat the waste that is not good enough for recycling. And waste is not just a normal fuel. You cannot have a fuel switch as normal production plants have. You take the non-recyclable waste that is delivered to your oven and fulfill a hygienic task by treating it. We have to definitely avoid waste leakage. There's a potential diversion danger that waste is diverted down the waste hierarchy once waste-to-energy becomes more expensive. It can go to standards, to lower standards, not only to lower environmental and social and environmental standards. And it can go to even criminal routes, which is unfortunately often the case. And in waste management, we have to consider that the higher costs for municipalities and the whole waste management chain, including recycling, because the residues from recycling need to be treated. There is no empiric evidence that the inclusion of waste-to-energy has a direct correlation with increasing recycling and separate collection rates. We will definitely tackle this, or have a discussion on this later on, because some people think it does raise recycling rates. And there's a danger of blacklisting, because some waste-to-energy plants might blacklist some, particularly plastic waste, because they would be too costly. But then the question is, including residues from plastic waste, the question is, where will these waste streams go to? Will they go to more sustainable routes? So that should be considered as well. So what can be done, or what should be done? The Commission's impact assessment must interlink environmental and climate legislation. That's very important. And then, yes, carbon capture and use of storage is a concrete vision. But it's not the silver bullet for waste-to-energy, because there are limitations. First of all, you need the space for the carbon capture unit. There is an energy penalty going along with carbon capture, so you can supply less energy, for instance, to district heating. Time matters. You need time for the implementation because there's a lack of CO2 infrastructure. And there is a lack of business models, considering the high costs. And there's a lack of solid regulatory framework. So a reliable decarbonization framework is necessary to ensure investment security. And revenues from the ETS should fund decarbonization projects in the sector, such as CCUS technologies. Now the financial resources are not dedicated to greenhouse gas mitigation in the sector, and the current taxonomy does not help. Then where's the steering effect? Waste-to-energy operators do not determine the composition of the waste that arrives at their plant. The steering effect is earlier. It is the power. The power is earlier. It is with the producers of plastics, because, they should also take responsibility for the carbon embedded in their products, and once they come to the end of their life. And this would also give incentives for them to maybe have a design of plastic products, of packaging, that is recyclable, that makes plastic waste recyclable, and use less virgin fossils. We should align carbon accounting downstream with the shared financial responsibility with the producers upstream. And while discussing all these things, we should keep in mind that waste-to-energy offsets its fossil CO2 emissions already today and helps to decarbonize the waste sector. It produces energy, and this way it replaces fossil fuels. And also via metal recycling from the bottom ash, the leftover of the incineration process, CO2 emissions can be saved. We have been doing some calculations on that in our climate roadmap, and you can read it. It's available on our website. And there's one elephant in the room. And that's, we still landfill a lot. And if we would move all the waste that could be recycled or turned into energy away from landfill, we could save a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, much more than we could achieve with putting waste to energy under the EU ETS or with all carbon capture technologies. So why not tackling this comparatively low-hanging fruits? And that was my little introduction. I would now like you to work and answer the first Slido question, which is the ETS 1, as it is designed today, the right tool to decarbonize the European waste sector? Let's still wait a bit. Okay, so I think we can conclude that number 1 has been winning. No, not at all, 45%. So as it is today, designed today, the ETS does not fit the waste sector. But also a considerable amount of people think that a substantial reform is necessary. And I think this is what we all agree is if the waste sector, and particularly waste to energy, comes into the EU ETS, we need to adjust the EU ETS to make it work and to make it properly work for the waste sector. Having said or concluded this, thank you for your participation on this first slide, on this first Slido question.